Chris,
What?
you gotta wake up.
What? Hey, what's going on? Where am I? What happened?
It's 2017. You've been in a coma for over a year.
Wait, 2017? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's 2017. Carrie Fisher and Prince are dead, and Donald Trump is president.
What? Excuse me?
Yes.
Who did you just say?
Donald Trump. You heard me correctly.
The real estate guy?
Yeah.
The apprentice guy?
Yep. Yeah, all those things.
You're fired guy?
Yep, all those things. You are correct. So he just got sworn. I mean, you have no idea what day it is. It's January 26th. So he's been president for just a few days at this point, and the resistance is being led by the National Park Service on Twitter.
Oh, good. Good. I guess.
No, I'm pretty sure we're all fucked.
Oh, yeah. I'm very confused. Are you sure? Are you sure I'm not still in a coma?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome.
Can I get put back into the coma, please?
No, we have to start reading terrible books again.
No, please, no, please. I want to be back in the coma.
It's the only way to deal with it. We need the bread and circus.
Just put me back in the coma, please, Paris.
No.
It starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away. So unreal. Didn't look out below. Watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on. Didn't even know I wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I tried so hard and got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Terrible Book Club. It's been quite a while. It's been quite a long time, hasn't it, Paris?
Yeah, I think this is technically episode 15, but we were on hiatus for more than a year, so
yeah,
whatever.
We might have lost a little bit of the count there, but that's okay.
Yeah, this is anyway. It's January 26th, 2017.
Yeah, and we had to come back, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we had to.
The world we live in has changed so much, but there's still terrible books.
There's still terrible books, exactly.
There's
and
still so many.
Until we're no longer able to read books, we'll keep doing
true.
this.
Until all books are eradicated, then
might actually happen.
We won't have this problem.
Anyway,
but we felt compelled to read a book that made. I don't know if I would necessarily call it terrible on its own if it was just existing in a vacuum, but certainly
in context,
the context of the world that we are living in now, it is certainly a terrifying book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just in case you forgot who we were. This is Paris.
Yeah, I'm Chris.
Hey.
And we're back to talk about some terrible books.
Yeah. So
starting with The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump.
Yep.
Kind of. A little bit.
So it's so The Art of the Deal was published in 1987.
Yeah.
And it's
30 years ago.
By Donald Trump with Tony Schwartz. So I think really how this went down is Tony Schwartz was allowed to listen to all his phone calls and kind of like interview Trump and follow him around a little bit. And then he put all this together based on all the information he had gathered in the most Trumpian way possible.
True. There was a New York Times article that we looked at, as we were reading this, and that dude doesn't like Trump so much anymore.
Yeah, actually, I think you were the one that read more about that angle, so you can talk about how much Tony Schwartz hates Donald Trump now.
There's nothing much to talk about except in this New York Times article, he was like, yeah, that dude's a complete sociopath, and I regret writing that book for him and trying to, like, polish a turd.
Yeah, I read that he was so ashamed at making money from it that he started donating all the, the royalties he was getting from the book, like, a couple years ago.
Do you know who he was donating to?
To charities. I can't remember specifically, but it was a poignant one though. It had something to do with him or his family or something. Not that they were involved, but something that affected him or his family, I think.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, he was like, I feel so terrible. I don't want to be associated with this at all, so I'm just going to donate my royalties. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. So this dude definitely did the majority of the writing for sure in this book. And, you know, there's something about the tone. It's still very Trumpy to read. You know,
he did a
it
good
comes
job in that sense.
It
Like,
comes
he definitely
off kind of like
it.
a very extended Trump tweet, perhaps. Like,
Yeah.
it does have those vibes and kind of that language and wording. There's a lot of disasters and catastrophes. And,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
he uses some like archaic words that just aren't in common use, like trebled instead of tripled. Which
it was in 87. I don't know. Maybe that was ye olden times where we still had it.
It was only 30 years ago. I don't think it was that. And
That was before I was born. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the medieval times.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, we were both born after that date. That's a bit revealing. In fact, it's actually my birthday in 5 days. So.
Oh, well, happy pre-birthday to you,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, I thank you.
Maybe maybe this will be published on your birthday. There's your birthday present.
Yeah, actually, probably will be. Anyway, back to the book at hand here. So, Trump has published a number of books
A
about
pretty
himself.
high number, too.
Yeah, they're So, The Art of the Deal, I think, was the most famous one.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the. Yeah, it was actually. I remember reading this. It was on the bestseller list for weeks. I think the New York Times. I just think that, like, so there's so many fascinating things that you notice reading this book in the current climate of the United States as an American citizen.
You know, there's a new context brought upon this book that perhaps wasn't, you know.
Yeah. And it's just interesting to me that, you know, at the bottom it says there's like a review quote at the bottom of the cover of the one that we have, and it says, "Trump makes one believe for a moment in the American dream again, the New York Times." And now you just think about how the New York Times treats it. And it's like, oh, it's amazing.
Shit, I guess they were fucking right about that for some people, right?
Actually, I think my favorite one is the Chicago Tribune on the back says, "Donald Trump is a deal maker. He is a deal maker the way lions are carnivores and water is wet."
Yeah, you know, that's all he does is make deals.
Well,
In fact, most of this
exactly.
book is about, you know, as you would expect, it is about him making deals, kind of.
Yeah, but then we don't hear about anything after the deal is
Well,
made.
it kind of to me, I think I told you this before, but it kind of reads to me like a play-by-play of a game of Monopoly that
Yeah, it really does.
that
That's
actually
a good way
concerns
to
like
put
real
it.
places
Like
and
a
properties.
really fucking boring ass game of Monopoly.
A boardwalk
You're just
is
like, oh,
mentioned
Grandpa,
a few
stop
times.
buying all this stuff on whatever.
He's buying up hotels and residencies all the time. He's, you know, going to banks and asking for loans and all. Basically, I think he's literally the top hat from a game of Monopoly or something.
Yeah,
right?
he kind of is.
So-
If that top hat piece was born from a larger, wealthier top hat, then yes.
Yeah, exactly.
In any case,
the book does start with like a little bit of like Trump as a child kind of a thing, and not a whole lot though. It just kind of glosses over his early childhood, except like my dad and my mom, mostly his dad, just owned a business which was renting properties.
So I'll go into a little bit more detail here. I read a bit of what Tony Schwartz said about interviewing Trump and how he couldn't sit still for more than a few minutes, couldn't really remember anything from his childhood, and he felt like he was just making stuff up because he couldn't remember. And actually, do you want to tell the story about the music teacher?
Oh, yeah, because
since that's real life for you.
I guess we have to question the veracity of this now, but this was one of my favorite moments in the book where Trump's just Schwartz as Trump or whatever is talking about growing up in grade school or something. And he was like, one of my favorite moments in school was when I punched my second grade music teacher because I didn't like his taste in music. I believe the reasoning was.
No, he said he didn't think he knew what he was doing, and he was like, yeah, I gave him a black eye. It was great. And I was like, I don't fucking believe this.
I would like to see Trump play any musical instrument at all.
Yeah, right. And so
I really need to see if he has like some stellar bluegrass chops underneath something.
I highly doubt it. I looked it up, and it seems like the story is not verifiable. I read a lot of articles about like reviews of the book and about the background on the book from various news sources, credible, like New York Times, the New Yorker.
That's fake news. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
That's all fake.
Alternative news.
Disclaimer here. Obviously, this is, as much as I want to keep politics out of certain things that I do, this is going to be a political episode.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try not to harp on it too much for those of you that are fucking sociopaths. But anyway,
I'm gonna try to focus more on the merits of the book still.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, you can't divorce the reality of things.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, we're gonna try to focus. Anyway, I was reading some other investigations people had done into certain things about the book, and yeah, the music teacher story is not really verifiable because no one else is around, but some guy went to great lengths to like actually try to find the teacher, and he was like, yeah, that didn't happen. So I mean, like, he actually found this person that was supposed to be teaching Trump music, supposedly, but I could only find one reporter that reported that, so who knows. But it doesn't see, I mean, because like people have asked, I think, his siblings and stuff, and they were like, no. So I don't think it's true, but
just got to throw in a little extra macho story in there to prove how much of a tough guy he is.
Yeah, and it's really interesting throughout the book how Trump goes on about his dad, and how his dad was, oh, my dad was such a hard worker, and he's, this and this, and he kind of, he talks about all of his dad's success and then acts as though his success had nothing to do with it, when in fact his success is all a product of his father's influence and finances.
Yeah, he never really acknowledge it. Like, he does admit to like, oh, like my dad did help me a little bit with like a starter property or like teaching me how to do things or something, but he never talks about actual loans that he got, because at one point he's talking about, oh, I graduated from military academy, and then all of a sudden he's like handling multi-million-dollar deals out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is he do you remember the part of the book where he talks about Swifton Village or whatever? I mean, it's gone through many names, but right after school he talks about how that was his, like, he found that and that was his first his dad was the one who found that property, bought it.
Absolutely.
And Trump was not involved at a very high level. Like, he talks about managing it, but like the people who were interviewed who worked there at the time said, he'd show up and they did say, to his credit, that he was fairly helpful. He like did some yard work, but they said he only came by a couple times a month. Like, he was not involved with the management or purchase or the spotting of this deal. It's total bullshit. I mean, his dad was the one behind the whole thing. I mean, so that's clearly not true.
The impression I get from the entire book is that Trump, he's basically just a money handler. He moves money around that he has for profit.
I would even say like he's like a money recycler. It's like he uses his father's influence to get loans because no one knew who he was, but everyone knew his dad, and his dad was really close with a lot of politicians in New York City, and a lot of banks, because his dad was a.
He's frequently taking out loans, and
I guess I'm not really sure.
He's building properties, and
yeah, he was. Well, he built low and middle income housing.
Yeah,
and that obviously required him to interface a lot with city government, because he got a lot of tax breaks and a lot of money from the government to create these structures. So he was really tight knit with New York City politics.
As was Donald's down the line.
Right, because of his father's influence. So anyway, Donald was able to get all these loans when he was pretty young, like late 20s, early 30s, because of his dad. And he like doesn't really seem to grasp that in the book.
Yeah, and it's not like the ghostwriter or anything injected anything else to maybe, I don't know, smooth that out. It's literally just like I said, one moment he's in military academy, and then he's just making these deals on his own. But I'm like, where did you get $30 million from to renovate this place?
Right. And the thing is, like, he talks about how successful the deals are, but he doesn't. I think at the point the book was published, this was like in the middle of all this stuff. Another thing that annoyed me about this book was it wasn't written in a linear fashion, and it was it bounced around, and I kept getting confused about when. I was like, wait, did this already happen? Is this like what's going on?
The way it's like each chapter is an individual project in the various steps and deals that this one project or building or hotel or casino or whatever the focus of the chapter is on. How that went down. And I think that honestly is a better way to look at it, because if you're trying to chronologically, place all these deals at the same time, it would be tough to figure out how much money Trump has at any one point versus how much he's in debt to someone else.
Honestly, I think that's one of the reasons that he managed to like scam people basically for as long as he has. So basically, I would talk about him recycling money because what he would do is he'd get a loan, fix up a place, and then after a few years, go bankrupt, file for Class 11 bankruptcy, which is a reorganization bankruptcy, go through a reorg, which really only hurts the employees. They lose their retirement savings. And a lot of other things. Sometimes the employees lost their jobs, but usually it was like you thought you had a 401k? No, fuck you, because this institution is bankrupt. He's gone through 4 bankruptcies. You could break it up into like 6 or 8, but I think 4 is more reasonable.
None of this is mentioned in the book, by the way. Like basically,
well, because it all happens after the book's published.
Exactly, and like the idea of the book is like pretty much like 8 or so different projects that he, this all ended up wonderfully for me, and I built these things and they looked beautiful, and even the press loved them.
And it was all
everybody
stuff that
loves me. Please love me.
Yeah,
please love me. I'm Donald Trump.
And it was all stuff that he had just finished, so time was not able to tell what was going to happen. And the only like redeeming things in the book really was that weird mortgage incident with that old lady and her farm, and the Wollaston Rink project, which was great for the city, and he did do it on time, didn't fuck it up, but he only did it to anger the mayor.
He does a lot of things out of just pettiness and spite, which is
yeah.
hilarious, because very early on in the book he lists out these 11 steps to like making deals good or something.
Oh yeah, like be cool.
And it's like the only thing in there that's like kind of giving advice at all, or like laying out a plan or anything like that. And one of them is like, oh, don't hold grudges, it's a waste of time. And then every single other chapter he's like, I went after that motherfucker because he called me a weird name one time.
Yeah,
there's literally at one point where he's like, I didn't speak to this man for a year because he said something bad about a building.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to find his 11 steps because I do kind of want to talk about how he doesn't actually.
And mind you, like there might be some business insight hidden in this book. In that there is one part where he's like, I think every businessman should be adaptable and on his toes and able to juggle a lot of things at once. And
that's true, sure.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And he must have he must have people working for him to balance all these budget sheets or something.
And that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about that he just doesn't mention. That he talks a couple of times about his assistant and about some other lady that works for him. I think the Sunshine lady, her last name, Louise Sunshine. It's literally her last name. He talks about a couple of people that work for him, but he never really talks about like the fact that they run his business. I mean, because at this point, he's handling millions and millions of dollars, all these properties. Like, he obviously has a huge team of people doing this. So, and yet he's here taking all the credit for all these deals and all this wonderful shit happening. And it's like, you can't sit there and take all the credit when your team is doing the work.
I mean, he does seem to make a lot of phone calls. That seems to be pretty much all he does is he makes phone calls at people. And he makes the right phone calls at the right time.
I have a glass of tomato juice.
I totally believe that. After all of his tweets about him eating a taco salad or McDonald's, I totally believe you having a glass of tomato juice.
Yeah, I thought that
maybe
was
in
funny.
the 80s. Maybe in the 80s he was having little something to bring him down.
Yeah, I guess. No, so his 11 things are think big.
Of course. He certainly thought big to get where he is today.
Protect the downside, and the upside will take care of itself. Maximize your options. Know your market.
Yep.
Use your leverage. Enhance your location.
Yes, of course.
Get the word out.
Yep.
Fight back.
Fight back is a pretty key one in that.
Deliver the goods. Contain the costs and have fun.
Yeah, have fun is the last one, which is, I guess at this point, that's all anyone in America can do, right? We all just gotta have fun.
Yeah,
Everybody have fun.
Just don't speak out against any part of the government or you might be jailed, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see how that goes. We're like a week in right now. So.
Yeah, it's not going well.
That's
it's not going well.
when this is being recorded. Is about a week in, and shit doesn't look great. But let's keep on topic here.
Sorry. So, like I said, the only things that could even be skewed as altruistic that he did in this book were, I don't know. I don't know how he even found out about this lady.
It was a news story, and he just wanted to be rich guy swoops in and save the family farm.
Yeah, so this lady. All right, so this woman and her husband, they're elderly. They had a farm. I forget where. Somewhere in the Midwest. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Her name was Mrs. Hill. Anyway, they were struggling. The bank was about to foreclose on their house, and so her husband, in a moment of brilliance, decided, I'll commit suicide and my life insurance will cover everything. Yeah, except life insurance doesn't cover suicide. So
that's the key point, probably.
So she and her son, I think, were just like shit out of luck and we're gonna get foreclosed on. But then Trump saw the story. He got together with his radio buddy. I forget who it was.
Don Imus.
Don Imus. Thank you.
Imus.
Thank you for.
I only know that because I listened to the Howard Stern show a lot as a teenager, and he would always talk about Don Imus.
Thank you. So Don Imus and I forget, a couple other people raised money. They were able to raise a fair amount of money, and then interestingly in the book, Trump says, when I guaranteed I'd pay the rest myself. It's a half truth. In the end, there was $78,000 left, and Trump paid half, and a rich Texan named Tom McCaney paid the other half. So
he probably made a deal with that.
Yeah. So he doesn't mention in the book. He says he paid the rest of what was owed, but actually he and a wealthy Texan split it. So I mean, he still paid, like 40. I don't know, 37 grand. 37 grand towards some random lady's mortgage.
That is a pittance
for him, yeah. And again, it's like, it's not really altruistic. He just, like you said, he just wanted to be the rich guy that swoops in and saves the family farm.
That's absolutely what he wanted to do, because he was talking about like taking huge page ads in the New York Times in this book. Like, Trump's MO is being in the public eye and wanting people to like him, weirdly enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's that. And in this book, he lays out basically what he did for his entire campaign for presidency.
Yep. I mean, it fucking worked, though, didn't it, though,
it's
Paris?
It's uncanny. Yeah,
it fucking worked, though. So maybe there's something here.
It did, but I think not because he was particularly intelligent, but because most people are so willing to accept things at face value and not do any research on statements from public figures or the media. So, I mean, I'm putting the onus on the American people here.
Or Trump pleased he freed some ancient voodoo spirit from like the depths of some like building that he tore up the foundation for.
Yeah, he found
he pleased this ancient deity so much that he just bestowed luck on Trump forever, and he's using that for evil at this point.
So, sorry. And then the other thing that would be considered a good project of Donald Trump was the Woolman Rink project, which was this fucking New York City basically fucked up big time. They were supposed to renovate this famous skating rink in New York City, the Woolman Rink, because it had fallen into disrepair. Oops, sorry, I just bumped the mic. And they had fucked it up for years, literally years. They kept dumping money into it and fucking it up. And so Donald Trump was like, this is a great opportunity to piss off the mayor that I hate that's not giving me what I want. And B, make it look like private enterprise can trump government. Can Trump government. I didn't even mean that as a pun. That's just a word I use.
Funny.
Anyway.
I think he also wanted to do it because it was outside of one of his office windows or something. He could see it.
Yeah, exactly. He could see it and it would annoyed him or something.
He does have a weird thing about aesthetics. He cares about how things look. He's very into the optics of things and making sure that at least the facade of something looks very beautiful and opulent and nice.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty much he makes a lot of design decisions about what rock is used to build his towers and stuff. And he seemed to care about that a whole lot.
Well, yeah, because he knows that that's what most people, like I said, people take things at face value, and he knows that, and he uses that to his advantage. I mean, he says it himself. I mean, Anyway, sorry. Back to the Woman Ring project. Anyway, Trump did, in fact, take over the project, completed it under budget, under time frame, did a wonderful job with it, all things told. I think so, you know, that made him look really good to prospective, you know, business partners or whatever.
Banks and people, other,
Yeah.
you know, investors or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, to say one thing, Trump certainly did build some stuff and like that provided functions to people. And
Oh, we're going to talk about his buildings.
I know. At least the rink, you know, stayed up.
Oh, yeah, the rink was fine. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the rink. I don't think there's anything structurally wrong with any of his buildings.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they stay up. They're not.
I love how this is your greatest defense. You know, his buildings stay up. That's
They
like...
they don't collapse in on each other. I actually have something,
I think
by the
about it,
way.
we're both like, yeah, good point.
Yeah, remind me later on to that kind of circles around a thing I want to reveal to you at the end of this podcast.
Oh, I think I have some reveals for you too. So
Okay, well, at the very end of this, I'm gonna do my grand M. Night Shyamalan reveal of what I think is happening after reading this
wait,
book.
it's more than the fucking voodoo god.
I'm gonna tear the fucking roof off of everything at the end of this podcast, Paris. Just you wait.
I'm crying. Okay.
Just you wait. We'll get to it. But
Anyway. So anyhow, Trump's buildings quite structurally sound.
they do, in fact, stay up. They
I mean,
are made
I
out
guess.
of. They aren't made out of paper mache and sticks and glue.
Yeah, I mean, I did, you know, in all my readings, I did not see anything about structural integrity, but I wasn't looking for it, so who knows?
To be fair, you know, it's not like Trump was building this himself. He was hiring contractors. and
Right.
At some point, contractors you hire are going to do the job. I'm assuming he wasn't
Yeah.
really skimping out on contractors that much. Like he
Oh,
wasn't
yeah?
talking.
Yeah? Do you know?
mean,
About the construction of Trump Tower and the 200 illegal Polish workers that he hired?
Please.
Your people.
Please tell me. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, so there was a huge group, 200 Polish construction workers who were all illegal. They were not citizens, and they worked without hard hats, which made them very obvious to everyone. And yet, the Trump management team was like, "Oh, we didn't know they were illegal," and they actually got away with it. I think the case either got settled or dropped. Because someone prosecuted him for using illegal labor. I can't remember the exact details, but the internet exists. Well, for now, go look it up.
Go look it up quick.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to hear that he was.
Yeah,
you know, he
there's
tried
a
to
lot
distance
of-
himself from it and say, "Oh, it was the contract." It's like, fuck you. You fucking knew. Like everybody
There's
knew.
a lot of Polish contractors out there that you know, my people do a lot of business there. I have family members that are all over that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in the testimony, or I'm not sure if it was official testimony, but when questioned about the illegal workers and how everyone, even like the general public, was like, "Oh yeah, the guys without hard hats, yeah, the illegals."
I wonder who.
Yeah, apparently it was like super obvious to everyone based on visual cues and just work habits and whatnot.
We can
asked him-
see the kielbasa sandwiches and the pierogies
Yeah.
in their lunch boxes. We know what's going on here.
There's a trail of pierogies up to the steel beams. Anyway.
There's no hiding this around for anybody, man.
Anyway. Oh God. Sorry. So when asked about it, he said, "Oh, I rarely visited the site." Yet in his book, he talks about how he's always visiting his projects
Exactly.
daily. He's always there, making sure everything's done right. And it's like, well, which one is it?
Whichever one is the better answer right now.
Yes, that's correct. And so anyway, after the success of the Woman Rink project, he uses his daddy's influence and some of his daddy's money and daddy's bank connections to finance the building of Trump Tower. Mm-hmm. And
it's a pretty huge deal. You know, there's like billions of dollars wrapped up in it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
In 80s money.
I think converted... I read something about the conversion. It's some singular number billion in today's money. So yeah, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he talks about how wonderful it is and blah, 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 and how 100,000 people a week visit it, and it's a leading tourist attraction in New York City. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. New York City has so many attractions. How on earth would Trump Tower be one of the top ones?
Yeah, I drove by Trump Tower in New York recently. I mean, it's a nice looking entrance and whatever, like he says, but I didn't see like 100,000 people milling in and out of it. Like,
yeah, so I was like, I don't believe that. So I tried to do a little research. Unfortunately, it's kind of difficult to get information on a fact like that from 30 years ago.
How many people entered this building 30 years ago?
Yeah,
please tell me, Internet.
But currently, I think on Yelp, it's listed as 141 on the list of tourist attractions. So I don't think being 141st on a list is the top.
I'm pretty sure there's like a couple of hot dog stands that beat them out.
Yeah, so and the interesting thing is,
just a dude with a cart saying, "You want a hot dog?" Like, more visitors than Trump Tower.
Glab galash. No, so and if you think about it, in the last year or so, it's actually had increased visitation because of his presidency and because of the campaign and his presidency. So I mean, and now at the height of popularity in 2017, it's 141st. So like, I just have a hard time believing that figure. But again, it's unverifiable.
Before then, there was a pith stain in Grand Central Station that got more traffic than Trump Tower.
Yeah, probably. Oh yeah, actually, I think the hotel was before Trump Tower. Sorry, this fucking book is
there
all
were
over the
many
place.
hotels. There was like
the Commodore was his first big one. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
The Commodore was the thing where he used his dad's money and influence and whatever to renovate this hotel. Then he got Trump Tower. Sorry.
I mean, again, it's really hard to say exactly when the deals were taking place, and the Commodore one was interesting because it was one of the times where he like had to have two separate investors on, like, he didn't get anyone to commit until another person had committed, so he had to like half get people to say they would get the money together for something and try to trick one of them to say it first so the other one would come in too, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, I can't get a loan until I have the city's agreement, and I can't get the city's agreement until I have a loan. So he showed the bank a piece of paper or the city a piece of paper that only he had signed. And they just didn't notice that the other signature from, I forget if it was the bank or... Yeah, I think it was the bank. Like, wasn't there.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's how I make deals. You know, it's just, you got to be that way to...
Well, so a couple of interesting facts. So, he talks a lot in the book about all these tax breaks he gets. I mean, and... Yeah,
he is very aggressive in getting tax breaks from any city that he's dealing with, whether it's like New Jersey, Atlantic City, or New York City.
Right.
He's always talking about getting special just for him tax abatements for like doing such a wonderful thing for the city. I'm helping the city prosper. You should be giving me a tax benefit. Yeah,
basically his logic is, well, I'm building this thing. It's going to give people jobs. It's going to provide work for construction. So I shouldn't have to pay taxes for X number of years or only at X percent because the city's getting something out of my building. However, this means that he is not paying taxes on multi-million-dollar properties. Like,
huge,
it's insane.
Money-generating properties.
Yeah, I mean, he talks frequently about how much money he's saving and everything, and it's absurd. And I mean, I think people need to realize, like, tax dollars go to the government to help the government, pay for things like roads and social programs. By saying that that's getting offset because some people have a job for a little while just doesn't make sense. I think it can make sense.
You'll find a lot of people that say like, "Oh, the government shouldn't take any of my money because it's what I've earned." But
I understand
I'm not trying to be super political in here, but I am of the mind that past a certain point, money doesn't have so much utility for you. You can only buy so many clothes, so much food. Right. You can only live in so many places at once. So a high tax rate on multi-billion-dollar deals and income makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I just think it benefits more people in the long run. But anyway, I mean, our views aside, it's a little crazy. Basically, citizens are footing the bill because those tax dollars aren't coming in.
As we are about to for a giant wall, apparently.
Oh, fuck me.
You get ready for $5 avocados.
I love avocados. I eat them all the time.
$10 Cholula hot sauce. The tequila is going to be like $50.
Yeah, I'm not excited about this. Anyway, anyhow, in 1989, there was a review done on Trump's business by New York City's Auditor General, and she described his accounting as aberrant and distorting. And
that sounds like the description for like a dark energy Dungeons and Dragons spell, not an accounting booklet.
Yeah, and so she found that he and I think his brother was working with him at the time, but they were they definitely owed a bunch of money because they were cooking the books.
Was that Robert Trump?
I think so, because the other one was dead, right?
Yeah, Fred, or it Honey, I believe, as Donald apparently likes to call Robert.
Yeah, that's weird.
There was a weird moment in the book where Don says, Robert, my brother, is the only man I'll ever call Honey. And I had to like kind of look at it and be like, all right.
Yeah, I have no explanation. And
that's
the thing
adorable,
is, like,
I guess.
Well, he doesn't really give any explanation for it. It's
weird. Just kind of there. He's just like, he's talking about his brother Robert. He's like, he's the only dude I'd ever call Honey. And I'm like, oh, that's cute, you monster.
Yeah. I mean, we can also talk about he and his father's history of racism when it comes to their buildings that they owned or managed.
Is this the one where he like, oh, I totally brought in these homeless veterans out of my own generosity?
That's a different. I'm actually going to talk about the Swifton Village thing.
Well, that's a different thing.
I guess the Swifton Village incident was more his dad than him because, like I said, he wasn't super involved.
But at least he didn't go into much detail about what exactly he was doing.
Yeah, but then later on when he owned, oh God, what was that?
It was these two...
100 Central Park South.
It was like Fifth Avenue properties that he like rebuilt and had to fight against like people that didn't want him to tear up the whole tower and redo it. And
because he loves evicting people so that private investors can put up buildings. He talks about how
he can get rid of rent control, specifically so he could get around rent control. Yeah,
he talks about the evils of rent control and shit and whatever. I'm just going to talk about the whole racism thing. So the Swifton Village case, the U.S. Justice Department brought a case against Fred Trump because basically this guy and his wife, black couple, went to interview for an apartment. They didn't get it, and they sensed that something was wrong. So they went to, God, I can't remember if it's called like the... I don't know, Center for, I don't know, some urban housing. I don't know. There was some like kind of like the
some agency or organization.
some agency that. Sorry, I should have written this down. Some agency that does social justice kind of work, and they
fucking SJW. No.
Jesus. So anyway, the agency sent in 4 black couples and 4 white couples to look at apartments, and all 4 black couples got denied, all 4 white couples got accepted. And basically what they found was that what they were doing was lying about available apartments when they'd interview black people. And then when white people interviewed, they'd be like, oh yeah, we have all these open. And there's some anecdotal evidence saying that like they only rented certain apartments to black people or like not at all. I mean,
that's like scumbag landlord move.
Oh yeah. That's I mean, and like basically it was that case, and I think it seems like a couple other times they got sued, and all the suits just ended in settlement and compliance, which means that they probably got a little money, like the couples probably got a little money, and then they were able to rent the apartment like they should have, rightfully. And the talking to, or I guess reading about what old employees had to say was interesting. I can't remember if this was at
please proceed.
I can't remember if this was at Swifton Village or at 100 Central Park South, but former managers and administrators and stuff that worked at the property said that the applications for apartments were secretly coded for race before they were turned in. Mm-hmm. So that the manager could look at it and go, oh, it's a black guy, I could throw this away.
You want to really, streamline and institutionalize the racism so that everything just goes by quickly and smoothly,
Yeah. Or like they'd only forward certain applications to a manager, if it was a
Yeah, once
white,
again, just
wealthy couple, whatever.
The classic move.
Yeah. Anyhow, sorry, you were talking about his contradiction with his homeless people thing. So
this was, I think, for 100 Central Park South, which actually had like a bunch of rich tenants or something. Like he in the book during this chapter, he's like, these tenants were all rich people anyway. They were living for pennies in rent-controlled apartments that could have been used by New Yorkers with less income.
You know what? Shit, I didn't even look into that to see if any of that was true about all the people that he named, because he named some pretty big name celebrities.
Yeah, there was like singers and stuff like that. I think fucking what Liberace at one point. He was like, he lives in an apartment of mine or something like that. And it just struck me as weird that his whole plan was to get around the rent control to charge more rent, but then he's calling out these people to be like, well, some other poor New Yorker could live here, but you're about to fucking tear it down.
Yeah.
So that they can't do that. And then early, like in the same chapter, at one point he was like, I would never take advantage of the city's homeless for my own means. And then like 2 pages, literally 2
pages later,
he's like, I started offering, empty rooms that I couldn't sell to homeless veterans for free. Totally not just because I wanted to make the suburban-y type white people get a little scared.
Well, no, he didn't actually do it. He was talking about the fact that he wanted to. Or maybe, hang on.
I'm pretty sure he actually did it, dude.
Hang on. I'll read the quote. So, page 259, he's talking about slumlords. He says, they import truckloads of junkies, prostitutes, and thieves and move them into vacant apartments to terrorize holdout tenants. That's what I call a harassment. And then he goes on about how terrible it is. And then 2 pages later...
I'm pretty sure the difference to him is that he was housing homeless veterans. I think that's what I remember reading. I could be wrong. But he just made some really like hair-splitting distinction between like how he was letting homeless people in. And not that like, oh, how dare he offer housing to the homeless, but you just know his reasoning is disingenuous and from bad faith just by reading this book.
Yeah, shit. I can't... Fuck.
I mean, people could always...
wait. Nothing generated as much controversy as my offer to provide housing for the homeless at 100 Central Park South. By the summer of 1982, about a year after I took over the building, the problem of the homeless in New York was beginning to get a lot of attention. One morning, after passing several homeless people sleeping on benches in Central Park, I got an idea. I had more than a dozen vacant apartments at 100 Central Park South. Because I still planned to demolish the building, I had no intention of filling the apartments with permanent residents. Why not, I thought, offer them to the city for use by the homeless on a temporary basis? Almost immediately, the columnists and
2 pages later.
Yeah, it's 2.5 or whatever. It was anyway. Yeah, so basically he's like, all these slumlords, they'll move in prostitutes and junkies and degenerates to scare out the regular tenants. I'd never do that. 2 pages later, I'm thinking about moving in the homeless. It's like, I mean, not to equate all homeless people with being prostitutes and junkies. Don't get me wrong. That's not what
we're talking about. We're not talking about whether it's right to house these people or not. We're just talking about this dude said one thing 2 pages ago, moments ago, and then reversed his stance almost immediately.
I know. I think you misunderstood what I said. I said I don't want to say that I'm equating all homeless people with junkies and prostitutes. No. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
But to the audience he's talking about, these like bougie white people, they often see them the same way. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Anyway, so a lot of controversy with his management of properties and his policies about eviction and race and whatever.
Different chapter that was like handling a different kind of business other than real estate property was his USFL dealings.
Oh, that was which fucking boring.
He was trying to start a competing football league with the NFL. I mean, AFL,
neither of us were alive at this time, so I have no fucking. I didn't even know there was another competing.
Yeah, there was like the AFL and the NFL are still kind of things now, and they used to be competing leagues, but they just kind of joined forces under the umbrella of the NFL at a certain point, and that had already happened by the time Trump brought up the USFL, which was just a bunch of other rich investors trying to start up their own football league, and people can do this all the time. You can start up sports leagues if you have enough money to pay for a team and pay for equipment and all these kinds of things. Right. But he was trying to talk about, I'm fighting back against the evil NFL monopoly that is overtaking everything. And he tried to like make it out as this like crusade as of the underdog, when it's just two really rich organizations fighting for dominance over a sport. Like, they weren't going to share it. Trump wasn't going to share it with the NFL.
Yeah, and the whole thing was just about all the, the team owners making money. I mean, I know Trump talks a little bit about the nostalgia of like owning his own team. He felt like that really meant that he made it. But in the end, I mean, they just wanted to make money on a sports team.
It's just like it's only the only thing that's different about it when I said it was different is literally just the content of what is being traded and bought.
Yeah, and honestly,
it's people. It's football players instead of like.
I felt bored to fucking tears because I'm just not into sports. I never really have been, and I was actually fine with all the like real estate and
that's interesting to me. Like, I have some dealings in real estate myself, and it's interesting to read about these high level deals about giant buildings.
You got some dealings, Chris.
I'm involved in things, not huge buildings that I'm building or whatever, but I real estate interests me on some level.
Yeah. You got some family interest in real estate, but nothing the like.
I'm not constructing towers or apartment buildings or anything like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure I'm forgetting some shit, but I did a little research on his family, and namely like his dad and grandfather. And I don't know if you remember this, but when he was campaigning for president, he was always mentioning his uncle, who was a professor at MIT.
Yeah.
And how smart he was because his genetics. Yeah, like, well, I was actually surprised to find out that he did have Uncle John Trump, who was a professor at MIT. Yeah.
That's a real dude.
And he did a lot of good work. He worked on x-rays, cancer treatment, and he even studied the consequences of improper sewage management at Deer Island in Boston. So I found a lot of neat information about John Trump. Not everyone in a family is always, totally heinous. There's probably always one or two people that end up doing some good. Oh, no. I honestly kind of thought he had made him up. I didn't think he was
really? You just thought he's like tried to slip one by everyone?
Yeah, well, that's what he does with everything else, and it works. So I guess,
no one's ever going to look up my brother or my uncle from MIT, rather. But that sounds like a thing he wouldn't make up on his own. Like, I feel like Trump would go even grander than that if he would just start talking about like how he invented some crazy physics thing.
Well, he actually does. In a couple of interviews, he said, my uncle invented nuclear before it was nuclear, which isn't true. Nuclear
John Trump
stuff
predated Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein.
Exactly, yeah, and obviously that's not true, but that's his lie.
I wonder
about
if
his
John
uncle.
Trump heard that and he was like, "What do you? Don't drag me into this."
No, I think he died a while. He's dead now, I think. I think he died quite some time ago, but I know he's dead now. I can't remember the date of his death, but anyway, I did some.
You don't have to remember specific death dates, Paris. Like, it's fine.
I did some investigation just on his family history because I was interested to see what his experience was with immigration and stuff, like how far back. And his grandfather was an immigrant from Germany, and actually the family name was Drumpf. It was Drumph.
As Last Week Tonight publicized, very, I'm sure every liberal ever has heard that one by now because of Last Week Tonight.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't watch? Oh, it's the John Oliver
TV.
It's the John Oliver HBO series. Basically, he just started being The Daily Show after The Daily Show.
Oh yeah, no. I know that exists. I'm just saying I haven't seen this thing you're talking about.
Oh no, like halfway into the campaign, John Oliver broke, he told that story about how the surname of the family used to be Drumpf, and there was a whole hashtag campaign about like make Drumpf again or get rid of Drumpf or something like that.
Oh wow, I totally missed that.
You are so disconnected from some aspects.
Well, the thing is, like, I don't have a lot of time to watch TV and shit, so like I pick and choose just a couple of things here and there.
As do we all have our lives to deal with and whatnot. And like, not that I'm like chastising you for not keeping up on what's hot on Twitter nowadays.
National Park Service is fucking hot.
Yeah.
Merriam-Webster.
There's a Leslie Knope out there somewhere, Paris, and she's just
Anyway.
real life Leslie Knope is out there somewhere.
Anyhow, I just did a little research, and I was really surprised to find that his grandfather was an immigrant. And yet he has these really outdated ideas about immigration. Again, I think it's more of a racist thing. I think that whenever people talk about...
Probably his grandfather came here legally and stuff like that, because Trump has never talked about throwing out people that have come here legally or what have you.
The interesting thing about when his grandfather came here, there was no illegal immigration.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like it was just kind of
you came
a lot
over
more
on
open-ended.
A boat. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was not the process it is now. So anyway,
that's the way of people that have never really had to work for their successes. They're just going to pull up the ladder behind them.
Yeah,
because why let other people?
Right. Anyway, his grandfather ran a number of restaurants and brothels, and
sick, awesome.
That's
all right,
how he made his money. And so, eventually had Fred.
That's how you start. That's how you start up the family empire. Look at that.
Yep.
Grandpa Trump starts, pimping out a little bit, owning some brothels, being the little finger in 1800s America. 3 generations later, his orange grandson leads the free world. That's all you have to do is just start a brothel, and 3 generations down the line, people will remember your name.
Yeah, and there's some controversy over whether or not his grandfather or father was part of a KKK rally, because he was listed as someone that got arrested during the rally. Sorry, I can't remember if it was father or grandfather. I think it was his father, actually, which doesn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah, well...
Yeah. So his father was arrested as part of a KKK riot in Queens in 1927. And documents it's like most agree he was arrested because he was part of the protests, but his family has just said, oh no, he was just there. He was just nearby and got arrested. Yeah, I don't know.
I was just going to the store for some milk, and I just decided to take a shortcut through this Klan meeting, and all of a sudden, I'm just wrapped up in this, you guys. This was just my shopping bag. It's not a hood at all.
Yeah. So I don't know if he was cloaked in the appropriate attire or not.
Yeah,
but,
that's.
It just does seem that
there's a whole lot of evidence pointing to some fuckery in that area of the family, basically.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, the book does not talk about, he doesn't ogle any women or anything in it. He talks about how great women are and how they're...
Yeah, there's a whole paragraph where he's like, some women I know are the best business people I ever knew. And okay, cool. That's...
Yeah, I mean...
But then again, how much of that was actual Trump and not ghostwriter smoothing some shit over?
Well, and how much of that was also just, him trying to make headway in a world where women were gaining more ground in the late 80s and early 90s. I'm
not going to judge him by a paragraph in a book. I'm going to judge him by how he treats people.
Exactly. So I think with all the stuff we've seen since then, yeah, he seems like he's pretty despicable to women. That's a thing. But it doesn't show up in the book. So like you were saying, if we were to analyze this book in a vacuum, if you don't know anything about his failures in real estate and where he got all his money from and that he's lying about a lot of shit, the book, you'd probably just be like, it's like another self-help book, whatever. It's just as shitty and average as any other self-help book.
Once again, it's a play-by-play of a game of Monopoly where one player had a very distinct advantage out front.
I will say that in my research, I did find something out that helped me understand his mindset. And it doesn't make me feel better about anything, but it helps me understand, and it helps me be able to rationalize, not in an acceptance way, but just to really break it down and understand how Donald Trump thinks about things.
How did you unlock the mystery of Trump? As he has promised to unlock the mysteries of space at his inaugural address, which if he doesn't, I will be very disappointed.
Bring me aliens.
He literally said we will unlock the mysteries of space if his Gent album doesn't come out by 2018. Yeah. I'm demanding my Petraean money back.
Anyway, so I found out that his father used to take him to the Reverend Peele's church. The Reverend Peele, made famous by his book, The Power of Positive Thinking. So his whole life, Trump have this mindset that basically it's like the will to power. You know, it's like if you believe it, it will become true. So he kind of honestly it almost is this weird magical sense where like if you speak it, it will be. You know, like if you put it out there.
Do you remember that book, The Secret, that was popular a couple years ago?
I don't know what it's about, though.
There was a very popular self-help book called The Secret that was making the rounds on talk shows and media and everything about 3 years ago. It was basically that. Just like think about it real hard in your mind, visualize it, and you can make it real. There's validity in the psychological aspect of visualizing a goal that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not advocating for, total nihilism or anything, but I do think Trump has taken this idea of positive thinking to the extreme, whereby he's not saying, I believe in myself, I can do this, these are all the positive things that are happening to make this goal happen. He just lies about things. He just says
he is the positive.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, that's true. That's the thing.
Of course it would work out for me because I'm me.
Yeah, and it's a really skewed way of
and
viewing.
The ancient voodoo god Pasturga bestows upon me his great.
Yeah, I mean it does feel like that sometimes, but that is where his logic and reasoning comes from, which, like I said, does help me understand that, and because it's worked this whole time. Whether he understands that the roots of his success are in his dad.
I will say that I'm also a very powerful supporter of the power of positive thinking. I really do legitimately believe in that being a legitimate thing that people should do, honestly.
Yeah,
but I guess when it results in this, I don't know so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this is an extreme skewed version of that philosophy, and yeah, I don't recommend just lying about things and pretending that they're true. That's not, that's.
But if you do, you get to be president, though.
Yeah. Well, if you do, and you also start out with millions of dollars in political and social influence.
Yeah, that helps too. But
yeah, there's a lot more to it than just positive thinking. Oh, and being a white dude.
Yep, that's gonna help. Anyway, I think that's all we have to talk about in terms of the content of this book, honestly. Because unless you really need to read about specific passages of how many millions were made for what deal or whatever, and what petty reasoning he had for doing it, then go ahead and read this book. But I need to bring back to the thing I mentioned before, Paris. So we're about to wrap this up.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna blow my fucking mind.
I think I'm going to. So, do you remember as you read this book a lot of the time? Mm-hmm. It was the 80s. There was a lot of construction still going on in New York at the time.
Yeah.
And he keeps mentioning the thing a lot of the time. Whatever city he's in, he likes things to be grand and opulent and like the best in their field. He especially likes building the tallest building anywhere, doesn't he? He mentions it a couple of times, if you remember that, right?
Yep, I do.
And he even wanted to be the tallest building in New York at certain points. And I think he might have been he claims to have been the tallest building somewhere. I forget if it was New York or not.
Yeah, he did claim that. Yep.
Anyway, also in the book, we see a lot, even in this book, he mentions he has Soviet people that he deals with from time to time.
Yeah, he does talk about his Russian connections. And he was supposed to build a hotel in Moscow, but I don't think that ever happened.
He talks about that a little bit, doesn't he? So, Trump, loves tall buildings. He's a very petty man that doesn't like to be crossed when something doesn't go his way. He has Soviet ties.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question, Paris.
Oh, sorry, what?
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you know who the first person to call George Bush after 9/11 was?
Vladimir Putin.
It was indeed. It was indeed, Paris.
I know, I remembered that.
Trump did 9/11.
What?
As revenge for not having the tallest buildings in New York. It was co-orchestrated by him and Vladimir Putin, providing resources to the Saudis.
I actually
Spray tan can melt steel beams, Paris. Okay?
I thought you were actually going to blow my mind with the fact. I thought you were going to talk about how your mom was involved in some real estate deal or something.
This is a very serious issue.
Oh my god!
All of the signs point to it, Paris.
Oh, and I forgot about one other thing I wanted to talk about. So yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, well, if that I expected that to blow the lid off you, but I guess I'm sure it did to some people. I'm a proponent of this new theory. It wasn't Bush after all. It was a 30-year-long orchestrated petty attack
Hey,
by
honestly,
Trump
like, at this point,
to bring
sure.
himself to the presidency.
Oh, God.
He made the deal with Putin Putin would give him the presidency and he would get the tallest building back again, which he didn't, but whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to talk about some quotes that I found chilling in light of recent
I'm pretty warm up in my room right now, so how about you cool me down a bit?
He said that, most of the way that he convinced people was just confirming an impression that they were predisposed to believe. So again, that's this whole power of positive thinking. Just lie to people with enough gusto and they believe it to be true, and then you can also pretend that it's true and just move right along.
I will admit to using this before.
Yeah, I mean, he also just talks about he could only talk big for so long on a deal. He could only lie for so long before he actually produced anything, and he talks some shit about lending millions to the third world and how that's terrible, and I mean, we know how he feels about that, but
Yep.
I want to talk about the Trump limo for a minute.
Oh.
Do you remember that really small paragraph where he talks about the Trump limo?
No.
Oh my God. All right. So the Trump. So I remember reading the passage and going, what the fuck? I don't ever remember there being Trump limos. And I was mostly right. So, in the book, he talks about the limo in such a way that makes you think that, this car company just wants to build a limo after him because he's so successful.
I am the sexfullest man in the world.
Sorry, I can't talk.
I am extremely sexful.
Fuck. Oh my God, I can't remember. Shit, I can't remember.
The People Magazine's sexfullest man of the year.
Sorry, I can't remember the car company. Oh my God, they're incredibly famous. They build those huge boats. Those huge boat cars.
The duck boats in Boston?
No. I mean really large, squarish luxury cars. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember this.
Cadillac, BMW.
Cadillac? Was it Cadillac?
Escalade.
Shit.
I don't.
Oh fuck.
Rolls Royce.
Oh my God, I think it might have been Cadillac. I need to get this right. I didn't write it down. I remember I read.
You have a need to get super specific details right.
Well, because I want people to be able to, find what I read and verify what I'm saying, or tell me I'm wrong,
I'm sure if they Google Trump limo, they could find.
No, anyway, so he talks about, how, this company they just want to build a limo and put my name on it. My name's just so valuable now, and I'm so great. Yeah, no, he commissioned 50 limos, so that he could supposedly drive people to and from his casinos in these limos. So the idea was, Trump's so famous and so popular, his casino, everything's so good with Trump, I'm going to drive my rich patrons back and forth in your cars and you'll get exposure that way. And the car company was actually all right, we'll design it, whatever. So they designed a prototype. They designed two, because they were supposed to be the gold series and then the other series. And they were just Google Trump limo. They're just grotesque. I mean, they're basically if you coated Jabba the Hutt in gold and then ripped him apart and built a car out of it. That's kind of.
They've got a wig on that's just combed over.
It's just everything's gold tinted and dark woods and plush seating, and there's a TV and two bars, and it's got a desk in it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I need a desk in my limo. I got business to do while I'm limoing.
So there are these grotesque.
It's my business limo as opposed to my party limo. You have to have a difference. You can't mix business and pleasure limos, Paris.
Yeah.
What am I, some kind of animal?
Anyway, there was the gold series, then the some other series. I forget what it was called.
There's the platinum series.
No, it was the gold series. Then maybe it was just the regular one. Then the gold series, but the gold series one was the one that was
the regular one. We just call it the regular one.
No, it was the Trump limo, and then the gold series, which was actually the lesser one. I don't know. Anyway, So they only made 2 prototypes, one for each design, and Trump gave one to his dad and then never paid them.
Sweet. Can I do that and just get a free limo?
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck does that work?
Let's get a Terrible Book Club limo.
Yeah, I guess they just never pursued. I forget if it was Cadillac or some GM or I don't know, some large, well-known company.
All right, we're going to get a Terrible Book Club limo. We're going to fill it with books and drive around the country throwing them at people.
Yep. Yeah, so he commissioned these limos, and this company thought it was a great idea, or at least an okay idea, and so they went through all the production design, and they produced 2 prototypes, and then he just like gave one to his dad, and then the other one, all I know right now is that it's in the hands of some European car collector, but no one really knows how it got over there. But basically he wanted this ridiculous car for his dad, and his way to do it was to trick this car company into making it and then just never paying for them.
Shit, sounds like the art of the deal to me.
Or like
Paris.
maybe he paid for the one and then just never paid them for all their time and effort in the creation of the rest, although they didn't end up actually making the other 48. But
Well, all right, Paris.
Yeah.
I think we've said all we had to say for now.
Oh, Jesus.
But this was our first time back in quite a while. And I'm sure we'll have some more stuff to be read pretty soon. We haven't made a selection yet, but we're going to try to keep a decent pace up this time. We got a new setup kind of going here. I'm going to test out how I can compile everything as soon as we're done with this here. It should go smoothly. If there's problems with the audio, then I don't know, we'll figure something out, but it should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, so we're back around. So send us some requests. We're still on Facebook
any
and
book
Twitter.
ideas you have, some escapism preferably this time around.
So we'll take your book requests, and feel free to communicate with us. I know we were not super responsive while we were on hiatus. Sorry for any. I know several people tried to contact us, and
Coma happens.
I tried to get in touch with some people, but it was like. Yeah, we basically, like, I moved, life got really busy, like, I'm in a band, Chris is in, like, 3 bands right now.
Indeed. Sometimes something has to give sometimes, and the terrible books kind of had to give.
Yeah.
But we're back doing our duty.
I don't know, man, I play fucking D&D all the time, like...
we're back. We're back providing a service to the people.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a time of need.
Yeah,
I'd like to
if
say.
anything, now we need to avoid terrible, perhaps.
Oh, God, I mean, I don't advocate totally the whole bread and circus thing, but a crumb and a drop is okay.
A crumb and a drop. That's my new album coming out.
A crumb and a drop. Okay.
All right, Paris. With that, we're saying goodbye on this first episode back in quite a while. So, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Doesn't even matter how hard you try.